Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us on the program Flipside. My name is Daisy Leo Asikidi, and of course, I'll be your host on today's edition of the show. Today, we'll be talking about petrol scarcity. Marketers hike price to 300 Naira per litre. Now, checks on petrol situation in Benin City yesterday evening showed that while NNPC retail stations maintained a pump price for PMS, that's premium motor spirits fuel, petrol, they at 179 Naira per litre. The major marketers were dispensing at 200 Naira. They're very few. While other filling stations basically were selling for as high as 300 Naira per litre, with most filling stations shut down due to lack of supply. Long queues were noticed at every filling station in Benin that had PMS to sell, regardless of what amount they were using to sell it. You know the shocking thing, Nigeria is one of the largest oil producers in the world, but Nigeria is also the only OPEC member country that is still importing refined products. As of today, it's quite an anomaly, I would say. Different groups have been brainstorming on why the queues have returned, especially since we have reserves. But Nigerians are just tired of excuses. Today fuel, tomorrow no fuel. What they just want is to buy fuel. They want fuel, pure and simple. So how do we solve this perennial fuel scarcity issue once and for all? Good afternoon. Welcome to Flipside once again. And I'm Daisy Leo Asikidi. This is what we'll be talking about on the show. My guest on the show today is Destiny Owobu, someone you've seen before, of course. Yeah. He's an economist, a statistician. They speak a lot of mathematical jargons that we don't understand. It's not a regular kind of further maths. It's good to have you.
It's good to have you too.
Okay. I've bought fuel recently.
Yeah, yesterday.
How much did you buy?
290.
Good for you. So I'm buying at 300 already.
Yeah.
Interesting. We have a report on the situation, like a situation report of what people are going through in Benin. And we'll just join our reporter, our correspondent who is on the field to take that report. When we return, we'll begin discussion proper. Motorists and Benin City residents are unable to buy petrol due to the scarcity of the products. The current situation has affected the price of petrol, as filling stations now take advantage of the scarcity of the product to increase pump price of petrol. In some petrol stations, the pump price of petrol is now 290, while others sell for 320 Naira per litre.
It's crazy for somebody to pay 300 Naira for a liter of fuel. Is killing. And I can't imagine Nigeria we live in today where we are going through this type of things. When we are supposed to be producing enough petrol.
This place is even better. I'm just coming from Imo State. We buy 400 per liter last week. I think this place they're selling for 290 now.
See what we are passing through. We are not seeing fuel to buy. Make government help us.
Getting the product at the government-approved pump price at the NNPC mega station is not an easy task, as consumers spend hours for the product.
I've been waiting here for about more than 2 hours now. There's no fuel, and in a thing like this, the government is supposed to mobilize people to come and check the situation on ground. But for now, the whole thing is just a hopeless situation.
It has been long since morning now. We're already in afternoon now. I came in the morning around that kind of 8. So it's just not too long that they allow me to come in.
The current fuel situation has started to take its toll on taxi fares, as commercial drivers increase fares to different roads in Benin City.
They affect me well. At times my children, they go school now. They're supposed to use 400, but now 600.
Now I go back for 300 per litre. So they said 350 for there. So quand me say me I pay for 350, we tell me say me I got the carry 200 to Oluku. No make sense.
Where they buy fuel there 300 per litre. So you know if you expect me make I carry the way they carry am before 100 Naira 150.
Now because of the fuel, that made the transport high. So not because of say road bad.
According to some independent petroleum marketers, many depots do not have petrol. A development that has reduced supplies from depots to petrol stations in Benin City. Deborah Ugbefun reporting. All right, welcome back. You see, the queues are long, and I don't think they are going to be ending anytime soon. But what is the problem here that I see is there was no announcement that the price of fuel has increased.
Yeah.
As at today, we are seeing people buying fuel for 300 and the government is just keeping mum about it. So why could that possibly be? The tax force, nothing is happening. People buy at whatever amount, sell at whatever amount, and no reaction.
Yeah, I think, first of all, the government is not happy that the price is going up. But then again, we must also understand that worldwide, Nigeria pays one of the lowest for petrol, looking at the cost of producing the product. So the government is also paving the way for private investment to come into the business. We are aware that Dangote refinery will start operations soon. And if the price does not go to the market price is the price at which it is sold internationally. There's a law called the law of one price that says that the price of one thing in one country has to equilibrate with the price of the same thing worldwide. Yes, there's a natural law called the law of one price. So Nigeria is not very different from the US. If you go to any developed country now, the price of gas has gone up everywhere in the world. Now, the reason why we have been paying less for petrol is because the government has been subsidizing it for years. But there's a problem with subsidizing it. When you subsidize the product, it doesn't encourage investors to put their money in that business. So now that we have a big private refinery like Dangote coming on stream, one of the guarantees he must have been given is that we will allow the price to float to a certain place so that he can make profit from his investment. So I think there's this long-term strategy to allow the price to float to that point where it will be global price and become competitive in the global sense.
Interesting.
So the government is even talking about removing the subsidy, so we expect the price to go higher than that. But there's a problem. There's a benefit of that. In the short term, Nigerians are going to be wounded, we are going to complain, we are going to shout and things like that. But when we have a competitor, a big private businessman in the business, they encourage other people to come into the business. So in the short term, we're going to suffer, but in the next 4 to 5 to 6 years, the owner of Boas Cement is also opening another refinery somewhere else. Most of these billionaires are trying to look into that industry. The only thing that makes prices to go down in any society is massive competition. Now, competition forces the prices down, but now there's no competition. We only have competitions at the selling point, people importing the product. We don't have competition at the use point. So we don't have companies that are able to create this linkage between the oil we have and the refining capacity. And for instance, our oil is sold at the dollar price because the world economy is our customer. And then the dollar and the Naira value is suffering from some problems. So you cannot sell products at the dollar. You go and refine it abroad and then import it in dollars and expect it to be sold so cheap. So that's the problem. But if we're able to localize that refining part, for example, Dangote's refinery is supposed to generate about 600 million barrels per day. 600 million barrels per day. If he's able to refine that capacity and he's able to sell to Nigerians in Naira, not in dollars, it therefore means that our oil economy will not be dependent on the dollar economy. For the first time, for the first time in history, we'll be able to generate money from our petroleum sector in Nigeria, fully localized, the whole value chain. And then it will still be expensive because he will make money. But in economies, greed is good because greed encourages other investors to enter the industry, trying to profit from any windfall he is making or any private business is making. When that happens, there's bound to be competition. And when there's competition, it takes a long time for a country to develop and enjoy the benefits of any modern economy. So for now, Nigerians will suffer what we are seeing, but I'm looking at 5-10 years from now where things we go back to equilibrium.
Okay, you know, when we hear these 5-10 years from now statements, it makes Nigerians very scared.
Yeah, of course.
I remember when President Buhari came into power, he told us things were going to get better, refineries were going to work, things will be hard at the beginning, but give us a few more years, everything will be soft. Nothing is soft now. An average Nigerian is telling you nothing is soft. You know, you talked a little bit about subsidy. So much money has been invested into subsidy. Now, the budget for 2023, half of the year, from January to June, there was still allocation for subsidy, about 3.6 trillion naira for this very controversial subsidy issue. And if subsidy is not removed by June, by the end of this year, the estimate should be about 6.7 trillion on subsidy. But if the fuel is subsidized and we are still buying fuel for 300 naira.
Yes.
When they remove subsidy, how much would you peg it by your estimates that fuel will be sold? And if fuel is sold at that amount, are you sure the average Nigerian can cope? Because we use fuel for our businesses. We use fuel for our lights at home. We generate our own power, and it's with this same petrol. We do everything with petrol. In fact, without petrol, we cannot. Along is 100 naira.
Of course.
So if we remove subsidy, do you really think the Nigerian on the streets will be able to cope?
Yeah, it will be very difficult. But then we have to think about, because when you want to fix a problem like that, people must think about it structurally. There are cultural factors that affect our consumption of petrol and things like that. It's about demand and supply, no emotions. You see, the law of the market do not have emotions. It pains when it pains. It heals when it heals. And why? I asked a question. I was on Facebook and I posted something. I said, why don't Nigerians use bicycles like we see in other parts of the world? It's a cultural problem. Why must it be a vehicle, for instance?
A big one too.
Okay. It cost me 10,000 to buy petrol yesterday for my car. I thought about it. It's very stupid when you have bicycles. So in Japan, one of the most developed countries in the world, the bicycles are still very standard means of transportation. Okay, so we may need to reevaluate why we use petrol in the first place. Why must we be tied to that product in such a way? We can understand the role of petrol in industry. We can understand the role of petrol in other heavy industries and things like that. But most of the petrol we spend our money, our resources buying, is for our own personal frivolity, So we may need to, when it becomes very tough, a product is only valuable when it is used. If it is not used, it's not valuable in itself. Okay. It is the demand for the product that drives the price up. So if the demand for some reason goes down, or perhaps there's an alternative to petroleum products like petrol, like gas and other sources of power, then the price will naturally find its own equilibrium. So what is going to happen? Nigerians will suffer if we do not rethink our dependence on petrol. Nigerians will suffer. There's nothing we can do about it. I just give you an option. If I personally feel that petrol is too expensive for me, I'll buy a bicycle. And then,
but the roads are not safe for the bicycles.
I will use the bicycle. It's more healthy. It's green, and there are many reasons. Those things we talk about. You see, when something is expensive, you become more rational and become more economical. That's number one. Like I said, the long-term solution is to allow private investors to enter that industry and saturate it. Yeah. That's the long-term solution. There's no shortcut to that. Because the government has passed through the short-term solution of subsidizing. Subsidizing is like giving a person a little injection to make them survive to the next day. Why competition is the long-term solution. It's like giving a complete therapy to make the person get well. The reason why petroleum products are expensive in this country is because we have crude oil, but we do not refine enough to consume. Whereas in other countries, they do not refine to consume, they refine to export. We've never got into consumption, let alone export. Those people that we buy petroleum products from, they are countries like Nigeria too. If they were as careless as our society, where would we get the petrol to
drink our crude.
We'll drink our crude. You see, they were able to refine their products for their local market and even have enough to sell to other countries. We need to be thinking around that direction. Nice. We need to invite private players to refine our crude, sell to us, and think about other African countries and even the world to sell petrol to. The product is highly on demand. Why are we not investing in such areas? That is because we have a rent economy. Our economy does not support industrialization. We like economies where we just go and share money. So our type of government system encourages people to be rich from nothing. So we have paper billionaires without full industrial support. If you think about billionaires in any part of the world, you either see them in shoe industry, you see them in heavy manufacturing, you say he's a retail magnate, you say he's a mogul in oil production. Go and check the richest Nigerians and check the businesses that they do. You cannot see their industrial support. The only industrial billionaire we have in this country is Aliko Dangote and a couple of others. Others are just billionaires because they are either politicians or they are close to the government or they are near the contract angle. So we have contract type of billionaires. This will force Nigerians to go into real wealth creation. If petrol price is 300 naira, that should tell a businessman that there's a lot of money in that industry. It should make billionaires sit down and think about the hard industries, put money into that business, and rip people off. But when you are trying to rip people off, which is greed, which I said is good, it's not only you that is greedy. It encourages other greedy people to get into the industry.
And the more greedy people
and the more greedy people that go into the industry,
the cheaper it will get.
The cheaper it gets for everybody. So basic economics say greed is good at a certain point. It's painful in the short term, but in the long term, greed, economic greed, is what powers the modern economy.
Okay.
So we have not gotten to that point yet. We are still moralistic about it. We should have to be greedy about it.
It's good. The talks on deregulation is already on the table.
Yes.
And we've already seen the processes, the breaking, the NMPC thing, and all of that. But then again, some school of thought will tell you that this issue of deregulation, we need, thank God, Dangote is coming on board.
Yeah.
Well, we need the modular refineries given more power so that they produce these products in more environment-friendly ways.
Yes.
Those illegal refineries should be given licenses.
Yes.
And some will also advise that our own refineries should be fixed.
Yes.
What would you say to that?
We've tried. You can't be passing a bad road every time. Check any business controlled by the government of this country. What happened to Nitel? What happened to Nigeria Railway Corporation? What happened to NMPC? What happened to anything you put Nigeria in front? They all suffered failures. What happened to Nigerian Airways? We should learn from the past. The government is terrible at business because it runs on a patronage system. It doesn't run on a merit business system. Government has its own priorities, social character of the government. We have to do what we call quota system with everything. We don't use the best hands. So if there's NMPC, because it's Nigeria, the recruitment process has to be spread around the country.
Yeah.
Everything, there's always politics, ethnic coloration. But businessmen are different. If it's a private business, if a business is not doing well, you sack your workers. That's what businessmen do. They cut staff, 4,000 workers out. But government cannot sack 4,000 workers without making the news. There will be protest. So government does not run on profit motive. Government runs on what we call social benefit. And because of that character of government, it's like a philanthropist. It doesn't know how to run business sustainably. Except the business, the government has a business mentality from a capitalist mentality. So we can see governments of the US, government of Britain, because they have a capitalist orientation, they can decide to do anything like that and it will not cause social disequilibrium. But we cannot say that of Nigeria. So what we should encourage is private investors. Let's check when Nitel failed. Why has MTN, for instance, sorry, I don't want to advertise for anybody. Why have they not failed? Why have these private ventures not failed? Because they suffer heavy competition, but yet they still are in business because they run according to corporate values. And like I said, we should stop trying to make government create more refineries and things like that. It is a short-term solution. It doesn't work because the same thing that happened to the past ones will happen again. Why did the past ones fail? They failed because of management, poor management, patronage, because of recruitment problems.
But the three refineries have lots of workers still receiving, even though they are not refining anything. What then happens to these workers? What happens to the building?
So let's put it this way. If you were the owner of these refineries and they are refining nothing, we have not gotten up to capacity in the last 20 years, and would you be paying those people? Would you not find a way to shed your workers and try and reduce your costs? Since obviously they are not doing anything very important.
I will.
You will do that. But you're not government. Government does not do things like that. So what government does is to privatize, allow deregulation, allow private people to run this thing. The beautiful thing about private ventures is this. Their greed allows them to take prices high. The same greed allows them to take prices low when there's competition. Okay? They don't have to be moralistic. You can trust a business to do better than a government institute when it comes to business, because the purpose of business is to return capital to the shareholders and some profit. But the purpose of government is not to return cash to government, it's to return social benefit, which is something we cannot measure in monetary terms. Okay? So government is different. So we should allow private players to come inside. Check any business. I remember the first time I bought a cell phone as a young person. I bought the cell phone for about 25,000, about 20 years ago.
When did you buy the SIM?
My first SIM was 25,000 SIM. But today it's about 200 naira, 300
They
naira.
beg you to buy.
So do you think the companies suddenly became nice?
No.
No, it's competition. It's competition. If they make it very expensive, their products are dependent on SIMs. If people don't have SIMs, how would they make calls? So they sell calls, so they have to make the SIMs cheap. It's just simply complementary goods.
Wow.
So it's not because they became nice. Nigerians, no. It's still the same greed, corporate greed. But this greed is useful. It's useful because at first, when it was one company, it was very expensive. But when other players came in, they brought it down. They now think about the large market. They want to have what we call extensive market.
Yeah.
And so the price has become very small. The same thing, we must learn. We must learn from that. We must do that to the oil sector. We must do that to all other sectors of Nigeria. Even education. We must do that to it. We can't allow government to be taking care of only education. Because private people will come in. This one will come and charge 5 million school fees, 10 million. Let them do what they want to do. But this is what will happen. It will force equilibrium. The rich will go certain places, the average will go certain places. After some time, one new university will come and want to drag people from the other university and bring the price down. Over a period of 30 to 40 years, everything gets to equilibrium. Any country you see today that is great had a period of pain when they were building. And then the people must be willing to. There's one thing too. If they told you 8 years ago that Nigerians can buy petrol for 300 naira, would you believe that?
No.
But have you seen any civil war?
No.
People are buying it. Right?
Yeah.
If the price of petrol goes to 1,000 naira today, there will be no war. You know why? Wages will also increase by force. The market woman will increase its own price. There's a certain equilibrium. Everybody will jack up to that point. We will all suffer it together.
Oh, we will suffer because private companies will not increase their salaries.
They will be forced to. It will not happen immediately, but they will be forced to. If you buy petrol 1,000 naira per liter and you see that your salary is maybe 10,000 naira a month, it will be ill luck for you to continue the company. There's a natural equilibrium. Society will shake itself, and somehow some companies that cannot pay a reasonable amount will lose workers. So somehow we get to that equilibrium. So we should stop thinking about the average. That average man argument is weak. The society is not made of average people. There's no average. The average is the total divided by a certain number. So what we are saying is this: what is the demand for petrol? What's the average demand? Not the average man. The average demand for petroleum. Then what is the average supply? We try to make sure that these two averages are not far from each other. Now, as long as the government focuses on that mathematics, the people in the middle will always enjoy. Do you understand? But if you are focusing on the people in the middle and ignoring the big forces, it's like there's fire and there's smoke somewhere, and then you are ignoring the fire and going to try to put off the smoke. The smoke will never go away. There are fundamental forces that produce these headwinds of prices. Everything is expensive. So we can look at the economy from a bigger angle and look at the big forces. Why are things very expensive in Nigeria? Only 3 reasons. One, structural problems. We have bad roads, we have poor power supply, we have high cost of governance, we have multiple tax system. Those are the big causes. Why is petrol very expensive? We know the reasons. Everybody knows it. Call even a baby, they understand the reasons. How can you have a country of 200 million people? We do not have a functional refinery that can generate 1 million barrels per day. What do you expect from such a country? What magic do you want to happen? What should be happening if 40 years ago we had 4 refineries and 40 years later we have 2? The other 2 are not functional. What does that tell you? Population was 88 million in 1970, but today it's 210 million. What should have been happening was this: as the population was expanding, the number of refineries should have moved from 4 to 25. But why did it not move from 4 to 25? The same question. It was not. The industry was too subsidized. It doesn't encourage private businessmen to go into the business. Are you getting the question?
Yeah, I do.
So that's what we are trying to say. As population is expanding, be thinking about the future. The business should be expanding. Supply should be expanding too. So those things, once you get those things wrong, all the economics, the government is not immoral. It's simply strategic planning. That's why I said, anytime I come to the studio, I'll say government should be thinking about 10, 15 years ahead. We don't know that. I remember just 2011 here, there was a protest against Jonathan's government about this subsidy thing. I was talking with my dad and I said, why are people protesting? Even with my basic knowledge of economics, I said, the subsidy should be removed. I said it. My father said, "What's your problem?"
Exactly. I will join your dad.
Yes, I mean, he was saying that, but basic economics taught me that we cannot sustain subsidizing at 1.6 trillion as at that time. I said, what is that? You are using, your budget was 4.5 trillion, and you are subsidizing 1.6 trillion. Who does that? Who used 35% of his budget to be subsidizing one product? And this product is imported by not people that are no more than 20. So you're actually paying the wealth of the country to just 25 people. It is unsustainable. The best economists came to argue that time. Dr. Konji-Iweala argued. They were doing town hall meetings all over the country saying that we should remove the subsidy. But the people went on rampage and they said, what? How much was it that time? 65 Naira. You see, 10 years later.
It's 300.
It's 300. You know what happened? We postponed the evil day. If we have removed it by that time, I assure you by now we would have 10 working refineries, people who want to profit from the situation. If we have had 10 working refineries, these 10 working refineries will employ more Nigerians. There will be more efficient use of the product. If they see that the Nigerian market is not patronizing it, they will export the product to another country. It will never have gotten to 200 or like what it is now. Exactly. So we postponed it. If we still say government should not remove the subsidy now, we are still having such weak arguments. We are postponing it to another 10 years' time. Interesting.
So Nigerians should just better prepare their minds. It's going to get worse for a while before it gets better.
That's why they say that.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break on the show. When we return, we'll talk some more. At least we'll get to the concluding part of this discussion. We'll be right back. Thanks a lot for staying with us on the program Flipside. Now we're talking about the recent increment that is not written anywhere that fuel price has increased, but we all know that the price have increased and government is not saying anything. They are just acting as if nothing is happening, and we've been able to realize that from what my guest has explained, it's more like a strategy to ease us into a phase where we are not so shocked when subsidy is totally removed. Now, President Buhari is wicked, President Buhari is wicked. President Buhari is not the only president or head of state that has increased the price of fuel. In fact, every single person who has led us, every single Nigerian who has led us has increased the price of fuel at some point, except for one, and I think that person was President Yar'Adua. Now, in 1973, Gowon then met fuel at 6 kobo, but increased it to 8.45 kobo. That was like a 40% increase, 41% increase. Then he handed over to Murtala Muhammad, met that 8.45 kobo and increased it to 9 kobo. That was a small increment, very small. Then after Murtala, Obasanjo came in October 1st. He did it on Independence Day, 1978. He moved it from 9 kobo to 15.3 kobo, a 70% increase. That was a shocking one. It has increased twice, but not to this extent. Then Shagari took over in 1982, increased it from that 15.3 that Obasanjo kept it to 20 kobo, a 30% increment. Then Babangida came in 1986, and at that 20 kobo he saw it, added something, increased it to 39.5 kobo, still in kobo, and about a 97.5% increment. Babangida came April 10, 1988, increased it from 39.5 kobo to 42 kobo, just 6% increment. Babangida again increased it just a few, some months after the first increment, increased it from 42 kobo to 60 kobo. That was a 42% increment. It didn't stop there. In another 2 years from that date of increment, increased it again from 60 kobo to 70 kobo. So Babangida increased fuel 3 different times. Now, Shenekon came and he was in power for only 82 days. The guy broke record in 82 days. In his 82 days in office in 1993, November 8, he increased fuel from 70 kobo to 5 naira. That was a 614.29% increment. It was shocking. He did not increase it to 1 naira. He didn't increase it to 80 kobo. It went straight to 5 naira. And Abacha took in that same year. Same November, we were all happy. The price of fuel, petrol, dropped to 3 naira 25 kobo. Now, dropping to 3 naira 25 kobo was good, but it didn't last. It didn't last. Less than a year from that date, it increased it from that 3 naira 25 kobo to 15 naira. Now, that was a 361.54% increment. Abacha increased it to 15 naira, and the outcry was loud. So 2 days after his increment, he had to bring it down to 11 naira. Last, the increment was about from 3 naira to 11 naira. Then when Abubakar took over in December 20th, 1998, he increased it from 11 naira to 25 naira, a 127.27% increment. Abubakar increased again, but no, Abubakar dropped after that increment from 20 to 25 naira, dropped it by 5 naira, dropped it down to 20 naira because he was about leaving office. So maybe he just wanted the goodwill of the people. He dropped it by 25%. So instead of leaving it at the 25 naira, he left us with 20 naira for the sales of fuel in 1999. When Obasanjo took over, June 1st, he increased it from 20 naira to 30 naira, 50% increment. Then in a few days' time, it dropped back to 26.67%, so it dropped back from 30 naira to 22 naira because of the outcry. Then, give us another 2 years, Obasanjo came and said, we need to even increase it from that 22 naira, increased it to 26 naira. Add another 1 year, it came and increased again to 42 naira. Add another 1 year, it came back and increased it again to 50 naira. Add another 1 year, a few months, it came and increased from 50 naira to 65 naira. Still didn't stop. By 2007, he increased it again to 75 naira. So he met it at 20 naira, but left it at 75 naira. Then Yar'Adua came and the fuel price dropped. The only government on record, the only president on record that dropped price of fuel. Well, he didn't stay long. Who knows what would have happened if he was there for a long time. But in his time, the price of fuel dropped to 65 naira. The money it was before the last increment from former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Now, Jonathan met it at 65 naira and did the increments that almost set the country ablaze. Increased from 65 naira to 141 naira, which is just about 116.90% increment, and the protest was massive. So because of that, the price had to drop to 97 naira. Now, in 2015, the price dropped again to 87 naira. By 2016, Buhari took over. And when he took over, he met it at 87 naira. And by the next year, it increased to 145 naira. But it might be in record that in its time, for the first time, the petroleum sector industry was deregulated. In its time, subsidy was eventually removed. So it is not news, it's not a breaking news that price of petrol increased and people have been surviving. That's what all of those many information is about. So it's not a Buhari thing. I want people to know it's not a Buhari thing. Let them understand that it has always happened and we've lived. I mean, someone gave us a 600 and something % increase and nobody died. But it's okay. But what ways would you suggest that government should employ? We still have a long time to June, so that they can mitigate the effects on the common man. Okay. We are only postponing the evil day. Yeah. We cannot avoid the inevitable. It will still happen. But what can they do to make it at least soften the effects, cushion it a bit, so that we don't just fall on the ground yakata at all at once? Okay.
In the interim, I think the government should speed up the power roadmap. Okay. Power consumes a lot of this demand for petrol. We should speed up the process. I hear Siemens is partnering with the government to unleash about 20,000 megawatts of power. That plan should be sped up so that we can generate power without having to depend on generators. Private power. Okay, we have about 12.8 million vehicles in this country and that are consuming this petrol. So flip side, consumers should be looking at other alternatives
like bicycles,
electric cars, bicycles, and other forms of transportation.
Okay.
And this rail transportation stuff is also helping to ease the transportation for long distance travels. If not for security problems, the rail transport is efficient in transferring large volumes of people at low cost per unit. So one thing the government can do, like I said, is to allow these small refineries, modular refineries to operate. I think we need a strong-willed government. You call all these players and try and organize that because we find it difficult to do big industrial plants, but we are very good with small businesses. We can see it in these kiosk businesses we do around. We don't know how to run mighty corporations. We have succeeded in running corporations when it gets to banking, telecom, and other areas because of their highly organized nature.
Yeah.
So Nigerians are great at organizing services, but we're not very great at organizing hardcore products of production, like petrol, cars, and things like that. So most Nigerians are not very good with heavy industries. But when it comes to services, banking, insurance, finance, Nigeria is very developed. Those sectors are developed because Nigerians like soft work, so to speak. So government should find a way to encourage Nigerians to go to that area. For example, give some incentives to encourage those local refineries to come out instead of hiding and invest. For example, you can give them tax breaks. You can make it easy. They are players. Most of them are billionaires, but they prefer to work in the underground economy because there's this belief that they are criminals. And organize them, give them carrots to encourage them to upgrade their facilities. For instance, you don't need to talk too much. You can give them a timeline that they should come with specifics of their design. It's simple. Give them certain benchmarks that they must meet to get official. Very simple. You need to refine at least 50,000 barrels per day. You set up that roadmap. You need to be listed in the stock exchange. You need to give them small rules. You need to have a standard accounting system. You need to be audited. Those simple rules, things they can meet without putting strings to their neck. One thing about this government, about Nigerian government, is that they always see they are extractive in nature. So anytime they want to see any part of the economy, they look at the extractive potential, how they're going to take.
How they can take from it.
They don't look at how to build. To build, sometimes you have to be foolish. We follow the Chinese model. What they do is this: if they want investors to come to their country, they even give them carrots. They tell them, don't worry, we'll tar roads to these plants. We'll give you power. You tax break for 5 years. It look as if they are foolish. Come and invest. You see the government posturing. Come and put money in our country. You are safe. They make it seem as if they have no interest whatsoever. But this is what they're interested in. Once you set up the investment, there are people are going to work there. They're going to learn some things there. Just give them 5 years. They'll reproduce that thing 27 times. You understand that? We don't have that long-term approach to solving problems. We always like collect. So when you want to regulate now, the agency that you are going to put there to regulate it, they will start seeing it as an office. They'll be going there, serving their papers. You have to do something, you have to do something. Then corruption will enter again.
Yeah.
When those people discover that those agencies are more interested in extraction, they will hold back. They will not put those things in place, and then they'll be just paying. You see, we just create agencies for more corruption. We need a government that is strategic, a government that has 15, 20, 30 years in its vision plan, a government that is not corrupt, a government that is smart, that is smarter than all the businesses put together, that can call the table and say, come, listen, we need to do this, timelines, give people time to do that, and fight corruption headlong. Make the business community know that you are serious about business and you want them to thrive. Or you give investors that belief that you want them to thrive, you are going to ensure security of their facilities. For example, imagine you tell a refinery, if you set up a refinery, we'll give you 40 policemen to protect you. That kind of thing forces the refinery, and when people are trying to sabotage it, you arrest them, you take them to court, you jail them. It communicates to the business world that the government is serious. Government wants to protect their investment. That will happen in the interim. In the next 2-3 years, most people will put their money, those small refineries will begin to put some investments there and make it great. It is easier to create 300 modular refineries, small ones, than to create one big one. So since we are not good with creating one mega one like Dangote type, then we can allow these small ones to upgrade. The advantage of that is that you spread the cost, you allow them to employ many people from the region, you also allow them to feel comfortable that they are working in a decent economy instead of hiding, and the cost of fighting these people is enough to allow them to grow. So we must We must do something like a plea bargain, like what the developed countries do. Those days they used to hunt criminals, hunt them to the end. But after some time, they saw that the more you are hunting the criminals, the more sophisticated they become. So they came with this plea bargain arrangement. Okay, you come, you confess, we take your assets, we send you to prison for only 6 months and you come out. But the idea was to stop the crime.
Yeah.
So the government has to look beyond trying to fish out these criminals at all costs and try to look at the economic value that they create. If they are billionaires and they refine oil, and we have oil problem, it means that they want to be active players in the economy, but you have not given them space to come out legally. So allow them to come in, give them the space, forgive their sins for like 2 to 3 years, allow them to organize their operations, give them a kind of a leaf to organize themselves, because it is in the best interest of the country if these small refineries grow and become bigger refineries.
In fact, I heard from a very reliable source that most of even the fuels we're buying now are from these modular refineries.
Yes, it's an untold secret. That's what's happening. It comes from this back door. So let the back door come out. Let us see these people.
Let's not do anything in the dark anymore.
Yes.
Okay, but with the level of corruption that has happened under the very watch of our president, can we really trust that government will really open their hands and let this markets be open to all? The monies that were pumped into the refinery by Dangote from the government, it wasn't a loan, it was dash money, seed money, about $2.something billion. That's a large one. Do you think they have any plans? Would you trust, can you trust government to really open their hands and let everyone come into the sector? Because most businesses that Dangote is in charge of, Dangote is in charge. It's difficult to get other people investing in this kind of business.
Yes, and the Dangote was not made in a day. It took 40 years to make Dangote. Like I told you, it's economic power. Why is Dangote so powerful with the government? Have you asked why? He has the resources. He lobbies his way through. He knows how to network his business into the politics of this country. He's just a businessman. So we don't need only Dangote. We need 50 of such people who in different sectors of the economy can control the government. Like I told you, I said Nigerians as a collective, we don't like heavy industries. Check the kind of businesses that Dangote does. You understand? Check the kind of business that others do. Cement. They are hard businesses.
They are.
Okay? Dangote goes for the hard kill, manufacturing, going into that part. The ones that most Nigerians like to do is buying and selling, merchandising, services, the easy road.
They don't do the goods part.
To see what it takes. Dangote has been building this refinery for the past 7 years. Do you want me to pump over $16 billion to a project and you have not gotten a kobo from it?
That's a lot.
How many Nigerians have that patience? We like businesses that pay. Next year, we put the 1 million this year, you get 10 million next year. So to do a long-term business, we need many more Dangotes. People who are strategic, who look at the 10. What it means to start a refinery knowing that you will not get into operation in the next 5 years. And you are pumping billions of dollars. I speak just 4 months ago, there was a newspaper article that Dangote is broke. He may not be able to fund his refinery. Yes, it's not surprising. He has exhausted all his borrowing limits. And they suspect he may not be able to fund that. He has financial problems too. But guess what will happen? When that refinery gets into operation, it is predicted that he's going to make $30 billion in the next 5 years. Those are the kind of stories we want. Long, hardcore businesses take time and pain, but when they get out of the ground, he will make the money. He will come out tops as one of the richest in the world in the next 5 years.
Interesting.
We should organize our economies to encourage people to come to Nigeria, to try to take advantage of Nigeria. It's good. Taking advantage of a country when it is trying to develop is great. Go and read the stories of Dale Carnegie in America, the owners of the Total and all this ExxonMobil and others. One family, they held America ransom. The government, they were so rich that they were as rich as the US government. One family, one company. They had to break this company into 5 companies. One of them is the one you call ExxonMobil now. You know, they broke them. The Carnegie. Why was it so? But that company try to, like, it's taking advantage of the economy. But now, when they broke it, people went inside, invested heavily inside, and America is better for it now. Many years later, we can't remember these people. So sometimes it happens. People have to be taken advantage of for some time for society to be exposed, to be great. It's like that. That's how the world works. But what government should do is that the government should not just sit down and allow people to be taken advantage of. Government should protect people in a way that doesn't hurt the investor and it doesn't also hurt the people buying too much. Align other people to come. Like, you must allow some level of greed for businesses to thrive. So that's where government should come in. We should be circumspect. We should not be emotional. I am a Nigerian, for instance. I'm telling you these things. So somebody who's listening to me now might say, what's this guy saying? No, it's not so. I understand the issues. I understand what is happening. I know that government will need to step back. Government will need to step back, so to speak, and allow the private economy to come up. That is where all the blessings will come from. Okay. So, for example, look at the advantage. Let me tell you how modern societies work. If refineries are allowed to operate, because they are going to be public companies, you can invest in a refinery. So if they exploit you by selling petrol to you at 1,000 naira, and you are an investor in the company,
as a shareholder,
you get it as a shareholder. But where are you going to invest now? Where is the company to invest in? Nothing. So there have to be companies first that are exploiting people, so that I can say, okay, let me go and buy 50,000 naira worth of shares in that company. If I feel they're exploiting me, I exploit them back. So the economy has to be opened so that we can have options. And if I feel that my electricity is not working very well, I install a solar system in my house. I should have options. What is happening to Nigeria is that we don't have options. So when there's no power, the solar alternative is very expensive both ways. So you don't know which one to run to. But open the economy up for business. Let the solar people come and compete. Let them come and kill themselves here. Before you notice, one will say 100,000, the other will say 50,000. Okay? That's how the modern economy works. And over some time, like I told you, I am not very optimistic about the next year, 2 years, that kind of.
It's going to be a long time.
It takes a long time. You cannot grow up to be 20 years in a night. You have to grow up to be 20 years in 20 years. That's how it is. We must be willing to grow up.
Go through the process.
Our economy is still rudimentary. That's our problem. Our economy is too collapsed around the oil sector. It's a primary rudimentary economy. No economy that goes around a particular product is progressive. We should diversify our economy. We should stop looking at petrol. We should look at how we can grow our steel industry, our power industry, our transport industry independently, our food industry. We should look at how to create our manufacturing plants. It takes time to do all that. But if Nigeria keeps investing subsidy on oil, we will not even have the resources to diversify in the first place. And so we'll remain in circles for hundreds of years. And
the poverty continues.
And the poverty, look at it, it has increased now. Okay.
All right, I want to thank you, Destiny Owobo, for your time.
It's
been very explanatory, and no matter how uneducated you are and you're watching Flipside today, I'm sure you understand the situation. We're all being very emotional in looking at this hike in price. In our hearts, Nigerians cannot bear another hike in pump price of petrol. As an alternative, we are looking for opportunities where the system will shed weight of wastages, get transparent, especially getting transparent. It's because of lack of transparency that makes everyone scared. We don't trust government. When they say one thing, we're looking for the secrets behind what they say. If we're increasing price, tell us, don't hide anything. We want the government to meet the daily energy requirements of the average Nigerian and make it at an affordable cost. Pay us well so we can afford it. So in the long run, there should be alternatives to oil, which my guest just said. We cannot continue the dependency both for our energy consumption, our economic survival, everything on oil. The government needs to also learn to clip the wings of sharp practices in the system, reduce the wastages, the sleaze in the oil sector. It has no business. A government who cannot deal with this has no business in remaining in power, at least for another one day. Just go. So we're hoping that everyone has, I'll use this to say everyone has gotten their PVCs. You need to vote a government that understands. You need to vote in someone who understands the economics of this thing. You don't need anyone who's going to come here with financial ideas that are non-existent, that do not make sense. We need people who are ready to make money, who know how to make money, leading us. and teaching us so that at least we follow no road. Yeah. We all can start making money. Too many small businesses that are not yielding enough. But I know, get your PVCs. Next month is election. Vote the right candidates. Don't say you vote for 10K. For it will soon increase. You know, I should say bye. I'm Daisy Leo Asukidi. Thanks a lot for your time. I'll catch you at the same time next week. Bye.